Or technically, I can see when we're on Facebook.
I think
We're on.
Huzzah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's episode of Paranormal Encyclopedia. As always, I'm your host, Kevin Mears, demonologist in the Paranormal Encyclopedia. I am joined by
Brian McKinley, paranormal author and godfather of vampire thrillers.
And Baron Voltage, small, medium, and large, and rather twisted, sadistic hypnotist.
and back from California.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Good old San Francisco. Gotta love it. I can't wait to go back. Please take me back. Please.
So we're doing a slightly more open topic night instead of us. I think we've talked about it a little. We're going to probably look at urban legends, and then next week we're going to do Baron's very good suggestion, which is fear.
Oh, yes.
But there's a few things I want to research before we get into fear. Just remind myself of things.
Naturally.
Which is why we're going to put it off and do it next week.
Okay.
But it's also definitely going to be a show for people to call in, 609-807-2492, 609-807-2492.
Yes, dial. See? I'm dialing. Nah.
So what's your guys' favorite urban legend? Or for Brian, who's not as big on the urban legends, your favorite folktale?
Dracula?
Well, not
Oh,
really
we
a
almost forgot to
folktale.
plug our first sponsor.
Yeah.
So Brian can think about that, and we'll plug Audible.
Yeah, I'm blanking.
It's okay. It happens the best
So,
of us.
folks, since we think most of you like to read the way that we do.
Oh, yes. It's where the source of most folklore is.
Yep. At least these days.
Yeah.
If you're also like us and you don't have a lot of spare time necessarily to sit and hold an actual book, which is tragic, but we've all been there, you might consider checking out Audible. So Audible is a massive tens of thousands of books collection of audiobooks.
Oh, yes.
It's very reasonable. It's $15 a month for an audiobook, but if you go to the link in the description, which is audibletrial.com/paranormal and the letter E, audibletrial.com/paranormal E, you get a free month trial and a free audiobook.
Yeah, they got like a ton of titles left and right. You got the entire collective works of Brian McKinley, without a doubt.
Yep.
It's awesome.
You can listen to Brian, you can listen to Dacre Stoker, who we've done more than once, thousands of other people,
Anne
Rice, if you happen to be of that bent,
yes.
Douglas Adams, who we were just talking about before the show.
Oh, yes.
Plenty of stuff that's not vampire.
And
yeah,
and also reference materials for those of us that are seeking to expand our minds on the nonfiction.
Yep. Like,
Certainly awesome.
there's a bunch of self-help books if that's your bag. There's plenty of options there. And the nice thing is, if you decide, if you get it, you decide it's not for me, you get it, and you decide, you know what, I want to do this, but I don't have the money to do it month to month right now. You can cancel it at any time, and you get to keep the audiobook.
Yes.
So really, unless you already have it, there's nothing to lose. You get it's a free audiobook.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I find them very handy long distance drives.
Oh, yeah, especially me driving to the studio.
Oh,
Hands
yeah.
down.
Yeah.
I live 2.5 hours away. It's play.
For working out, stuff like
yes.
that.
Working out. When I work security and I'm driving around all night in a car, and now that Amisha's taken over my security job, she's driving around the middle of the woods at night. What do you think she's doing? She's listening to audiobooks.
Yep. I was listening to actually Asimov this past weekend when I was working shift volunteering for the convention I was at. So
Very cool.
Sometimes.
Oh, that's the other thing we should talk about.
Oh.
Since we now have a formal Facebook group for this madness, so folks, we are working on a convention.
Yes.
Yes.
It is currently titled, and you can look this up on Facebook and join the Facebook group. I will preface this by saying, please only join at the moment, please join specifically if you're interested in going, because we're trying to get a head count to look at numbers of how much space we need, how many days to run, and things like that.
Yeah.
But we are looking at running convention. It may be one or more days. We're talking to some of our past... Actually, a few of our past guests have even already reached out to me and going, yeah, I want to vend, I want to speak. And it's like, yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
We'll get back to you as we have more information. But...
So what's the name of the page? Where?
Yes. Revenge of the Con.
Oh, Revenge of
the Cons.
Not
That's
Wrath
what
of Khan.
I
Wrath of the
dang it, I
Cons?
got it wrong.
It's okay. You want to know what the thing is that the best part about Facebook, you can change it.
That's true.
Yes.
And if we come up with a better name, we can fix that too. So.
Yep.
I guess it's my inner Star Wars geek triumphing over the Star Trek reference.
Which will never happen.
I'm sorry. I vastly prefer Star Wars.
And you know what? When you reach the age of enlightenment, we'll gladly embrace you.
And when you get your wits back, the Force will be with you always.
You keep talking there, Jar Jar. Anyways. We're getting a little bit of feedback
like
on Kevin's mic.
Like there is a whole series of really bad Star Trek movies.
Yes, the fact that there is a really bad series of Star Trek movies means there's a lot more of them.
Yeah, but that would be because it's Star Trek 29, the search for still more money.
As opposed to, how long did it take for you guys to release your 7th? Yeah. An entire decade when realized, oh, wait, that's right. Oh, no, wait. How long did it take you to release the first one? Episode 1. And what did you guys give us? We don't
talk about episode 1.
Yeah, exactly.
1, 2, or 3.
Exactly.
No, 2 and 3 weren't as bad. 1 was an absolute abomination.
They were all bad.
2 and 3 were watchable.
2 was watchable just because you got to see Yoda throw down.
Yeah. Yes.
That one.
Yoda versus Sidious in the 3rd movie.
I thought that was silly.
That one. The only cool part about that. Spoilers. Okay.
At this
was
point,
watching Yoda go like this to the freaking 2 guards and slam against, and you swear you could hear a bit of a tiny little riff track of him just going, "Bitch," and just watching him slam. And the one moment where he actually got snarky at Sidious and said, "If so powerful you are, why leave?" It's almost as if doing the classic Bruce Lee of, that was the awesome there, okay? Plus, the best damn lightsaber fight ever near the end, okay? Granted,
well,
we had Mannequin Skywalker. Dear God.
A friend of mine has pointed out to me the best way to, if you want to turn the original movies into a decent movie, it's real simple. You fast forward through the parts with Anakin in them. Because if you just watch Obi-Wan's story through the prequel trilogy, it's not that bad.
That's a lot of fast forwarding, though.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, that's the problem.
It's just a little bit,
On the other hand, Star Wars also has Rebels, which was awesome.
That was good.
And has Clone Wars, which was very good.
Yeah, I can't deny that. It was very good, and plus it expanded
7
a lot more
was
on
good.
Dooku.
8 was good.
7 was good in a sense that we've been starving for a good Star Wars movie.
But it delivered.
It delivered. And then we gave us an 8th, which, no, strike that. I'm going to strike that hard with the 7th being good. Because we saw a departure of a character that I loved. And so help me, everybody in the damn audience stood up and yelled out in unison, "You fucking whiny son of a bitch."
Which was which is part of the point. The other part of the point was it was the only way to get Harrison Ford to come back.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then,
he was just done with it.
Yeah, and then episode 8, my only slightly remote complaint was we did not get to see the one thing that was the awesome, an actual lightsaber duel. I wanted
which is more than made up for in 8.
8 we got.
That's what I'm talking about. In 8, we didn't get to see one.
Luke versus Kylo?
That wasn't a fight. He didn't even swing his blade at him.
I don't know, the fight with all the...
it was all dodging. But I'll tell you this, okay? I hate like drolling off topic here, but forget it. It's Star Wars, okay? Luke making one single gesture immediately emulated all the badass. Exactly. The shoulder rub. Yeah. It wasn't even a multiple. It was just he went... like as if to say that. Really? Really?
What else you got?
Yeah. You just basically aimed 8 at-tats at me and unleashed hell upon me, and that's all you got.
Aaron Catherine says, "Long live Star Wars, Baron Voltage, you're wrong. Love your girlfriend."
Betrayal.
Burn!
That's a betrayal.
So...
It was nice having a girlfriend.
And this actually does sort of relate to tonight's topic. I will put it like this. The reason I prefer Star Wars to Star Trek is twofold.
Okay.
One, Star Trek is science fiction. It's light science fiction. It's not especially original series is on the lighter end of science fiction, which is not a bad thing. And I'm certainly not disrespecting Star Trek. It is a great franchise.
Good, because he's closer to you. He can smack you.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
But Star Wars absolutely is fantasy.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
I prefer,
no denying
as
that.
I said, I prefer fantasy to science fiction.
I've always said which one would I rather live in, and honestly, the Star Trek universe is a much nicer place to live in. The Star Wars universe is really horrific.
Yes.
Which is the difference between
it.
Which is actually kind of the part of the difference between science fiction and fantasy. And not just that, the other thing that that Star Wars is, that Star Trek is not and never tries to be, which is Star Wars is myth.
Yeah.
Star Wars is the hero's journey. It is a modern retelling of the King Arthur saga in many ways.
No argument there.
It taps into a fundamental element of shared human experience that Star Wars there's maybe in some ways is what it is. Star Trek is what we could be. Star Wars, particularly the more idealistic parts of it, are what we should be.
Well, I mean, I could certainly understand that. Whenever I took a look at Star Wars and Star Trek, the best way that I've always viewed it is that Star Wars plunks us in the middle of conflict naturally, in which case then we're struggling to gain that sense of utopia, where once we know that the enemy is gone, then all will be well, and we do have that happy ending ever after as is. And thus we know that the world will continue onward to a good thing until the next antagonist comes along. Star Trek, on the other hand, it actually poses us the ultimate stark contrast of an existing utopia with consistent external influences that can threaten it. Not only can threaten it, but can threaten it legitimately to the point of throwing it into absolute instability, which offers a sense of uncertainty and suspense that I can never get enough of. Because at any given point in time, you're living in this great utopia, but there can come an enemy along that, regardless of whether or not we know of them, they can just as easily lay us out and completely and totally throw everything off balance.
Star Trek does some really great concepts. Particularly, I'm definitely more of a fan, and probably in no small part because it's what I grew up with, of the Next Generation over the original.
Yeah,
Picard is our captain and will always be our captain.
I'm so excited with the whole he's coming back.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah, that should be interesting.
I mean, but,
thank you, Jean-Luc.
One of the most interesting ideas I found in Star Trek, and granted, they lifted a large part of this out of the thing. Is somebody calling?
We have a call.
Put him through.
Yes, would love to hear who it is.
Hello, you're live on Paranormal Encyclopedia.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, who's this?
This is Josh Sapina's show.
Oh no, I think you you're
calling
at the wrong time.
All right.
Oh, okay.
Before us.
You're the show before us. How you doing tonight, Josh?
Oh no, it must be over. I must be watching a rerun.
Oh no, yeah. This is the Paranormal Encyclopedia show. We're on 6:30 to 7:30. Currently talking about Star Trek and Star Wars. If you want to weigh in.
Well, yeah, I'm waiting. I'm wondering when the full trailer's going to come out.
Trailer?
For the new Star Trek show.
For the new Star. Yeah, I'm curious too.
So can't wait.
Yeah, they came out with a teaser. I saw. But
Did they? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I gotta look that up.
Yes, you Google it now.
Nice.
Cannot wait.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway. Yeah, I forgot he was on at 5. Sorry.
Yep. Sorry about that.
I was going to tell him to stop whining like a little bitch. All right.
Well, thanks for calling in.
Thanks for calling in. Have a good night.
All right. Bye.
Okay, that was slightly random, but that's okay too.
I was sure it was going to be Baron's girlfriend again.
Oh, God.
Well, I was hoping it might have been Lou's daughter, Stacy, who was supposed to call in tonight.
Indeed, yes. Well, I mean, to kind of like jump on it, now that we've gotten Brian and more than enough time to be able to come up with his own ideas to folklore.
Oh, probably just all the various vampire.
You don't have a particular favorite vampire story?
Not off the top of my head. No.
I have one.
Oh.
I forget all the details, and I think I mix
I'm
up
bad with details.
But there's the one vampire story where they dig the vampire up, they drive a stake through its heart, it plucks the stake out and goes, "Thank you, now I have a stick to beat the dogs off with."
That sounds Russian.
Of course, in Russia, the stake don't get the vampire.
I think it might actually be Serbian,
stake.
which is not
Serbian,
far
which is not far. Yeah.
Yes.
Because I think it may be part of the Arnold Payols story. You know.
Yeah, no, I know exactly who you mean.
For those of you out there, Arnold Pale was a 17th century, I want to say.
18th century, 1700s, yeah.
So 18th century Serbian soldier who had gone
He's one
off
of the
to fight in
real
Greece.
Vampires that are often cited as cases.
Because it was heavily researched and documented by the Serbian army at the time.
Yeah, it spread the idea of the vampire into Western Europe.
That's a whole other thing I was looking at the other day. So, was examples of vampire folklore in England much further back than anybody thought, like 13th, 14th century?
Yeah, that's where it starts to blend into like the fairies and ghosts.
Yeah, but
stuff.
even more than that, like actual more, fairies and ghosts are usually more spirits, whereas this is actual like reanimated corpses going out to drink blood. And weirdly enough, this apparently, and this is like 14th century, so this is long before Darwin discovered the vampire bat.
Right.
But apparently there's actually stories of a town in England, like a small village in England, where the residents drank blood and would actually turn into bats.
Ooh, I'll have to look into that because I was not aware of that.
That's a good bit.
Yeah, I saw it was an article linked on Dacre's page about like older vampire stories than Dracula.
Oh, nice.
And I'm like, okay, and I'm thinking they're just going to talk about Varney, and
Right.
it's like, wait, this is a whole bunch of English legends about vampires I hadn't heard.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to research
Although I was a little
that.
surprised because no mention of Leonshi.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, just thinking, English vampires, the obvious one is Leon.
Well, they're more Irish and Scottish.
True.
Oh, there you go. How about you, Kev?
Let's see. Favorite. In terms of folklore, I kind of like the fox possession, just because it's so depressing.
Why don't you tell us what that about it?
Okay, so the fox possession is sort of the Russian version of Jack and the Beanstalk.
Okay.
For anyone who
I
doesn't
remember this one.
know, Russian fairy tales are screwed up. This is a great example of why. So this man, just like Jack and the Beanstalk, he sells his cow for magic beans. His wife thinks this is ridiculous, throws him out the window. Wake up the next day, giant beanstalk going up into the sky. So the guy, they're both on the older side, but the guy's a little more spryly, climbs the beanstalk. All the way up above the clouds. Finds land up there. Around the beanstalk, he finds gold. Thinks this is awesome, so he walks for a while. About a mile down the road, huge collection of honey. A mile further, bread, milk, gold, honey.
I would have stopped at the first instance of gold and called it a day.
Yeah, but more gold. You get so much gold, and then you keep going and get more gold. At any rate, he comes to the only logical conclusion, which is this is obviously heaven.
Oh, boy.
So he climbs back down, and he tells his wife about this wonderful discovery, after obviously carrying all the gold he can find. He's like, bring me up, I want to see heaven. It's like, you can't climb, you're too old. But I want to see heaven. But you're too, I need my hands to climb, I can't carry you. But I want to see heaven. So it's like, fine, whatever. And he gets an idea. And he wraps her up in the bedsheet, ties it up nice and tight, and grabs it in his teeth. And starts to climb.
Oh, boy.
So they're climbing for maybe an hour, and the wife's like, are we there yet? Climbs for a while. I'm cold. Are we there yet? Now they're a long way up, a couple miles up.
Please.
Not quite to the top. Are we there yet? I'm hungry. No, woman, we're not there yet.
I was hoping that would happen.
So he climbs down, and he's horrified because his wife is dead. And a fox comes up. Looks at the wife, looks at him. What are you crying about? She's only mostly dead.
Oh, God, no.
Look, all I need you to get me a big pot, water, some wood and kindling, and then I'm going to need some herbs, some vegetables, and then you're going to have to leave me in a room with her for about an hour. So the farmer, in his grief, gathers everything together, sets it up, and the fox starts the fire, puts her into the pot with the water, starts getting it to a boil, adding the spices. Is she ready yet? No. These things take time. Be patient. He's stirring, he's chopping the vegetables. Her big toe is just starting to move. Just a little bit longer. She's almost ready. Adding the vegetables, getting this nice simmer going. She's just coming around. Just give it a little longer, and she'll be ready. The fox is finished. So he goes, yep, she's all done. Come on in. And the farmer opens the door, and the fox runs out and leaves him in his depression. The end. The fox ate her.
Yeah, no shit.
Isn't that a lot
Russian
of build-up
fairy
for a
tales
really
are
bad,
screwed up.
punchline?
First off, a fox that talks. No. Not done yet. First off, a fox that talks. Second off, a fox that cooks. Third off, a fox that eating a human. Fourth off, a fox eating a Russian human. No. Just, no. Make it a rule. Never trust a Russian fox, ladies and gentlemen.
Nope.
Russian fairy tales, man.
Russian fairy tales, man. Seriously.
The Cossack and the vampire. The vampire murders the entire wedding party.
And the husband thanks him?
No. He died too. So how about you, Baron? What's your favorite?
I'm more of a fan of the modern folklore and nature of modern folklore. Therefore, SCP forever.
Oh, I love the SCP. What's your favorite SCP?
Oh, goodness gracious. There's too many to count.
I know.
Yes.
I know what my favorite SCP is, though I don't remember the number.
You might want to explain SCP for...
Okay.
For those of us that don't know, the SCP was originally a writing project that was started on either Reddit or Creepypasta, where people would submit various different types of supernatural phenomena, creatures, objects, locations, as a scientific report. Every single incident is logged with containment procedures, a description. On occasion, you do get interviews with particular either subjects of said SCP, as they're referred to, and they're all cataloged. There are over 5,000 of these to date and growing. And everything from Bigfoot to Slender Man.
God,
yes. You name it. Every single one is cataloged. And it's such an addictive read. They ain't even that long. And they're, like, the second you start, you just can't stop. Like, for me, SCP-087, mind you, the earlier ones I really liked.
which one is 87?
The Staircase.
Oh, the staircase with the laughter? Oh, I love that one, too.
And not even a laughter, the crying child.
Oh, right. Yeah, I'm mixing up.
Yes. To give you an example of how silly these things could get, because they could get from downright terrifying to hilarious.
And some of the best are a little of both.
Oh, yes. For instance, there was a woman, African-American woman in her 40s, who went into an ear, nose, and throat doctor complaining of sinus pain. So cursory examination couldn't really tell what was up, so they began to stick a scope up into her sinus cavity. Thing is that the second that they did that, and the camera started to process an image, it processed an image of a World War II Nazi plane factory. Yes, you heard that right. For some reason, inside of her nose, a temporal wormhole had developed where it was an entry point to an unknown underground bunker that still, to this date, nobody knows where it's located.
Okay.
That's the silly. To the terrifying, which was the plague doctor, 047, which was apparently someone that looks like they're in full-blown 16th century plague doctor garb. But the thing is that his cloak is actually part of his body. It's not cloth, it's leathery. And he's able to produce this bag, a medical bag, that the researchers still can't quite understand where he pulls it from. And if he touches you, you die. And then proceeds to operate on said corpse. If you try and stop him, he murders you right on the spot. And saves your corpse for later. And as he's operating, and he might operate for an hour, hour and a half or something, but after he does that, the corpse reanimates and becomes a mindless creature that tries to kill any living being in its presence. Meanwhile, the doctor just goes there, sits, and is calm and docile as heck.
And I've got my favorite one, I think my personal favorite, which is SCP-4537J.
Oh, it's one of the joke ones.
It's the bound demon.
Oh, gosh.
So it's a demon that got caught and got found, and it's a series of conversations. And the first one is like, F you, man, you don't know me. You don't know what I am. You don't know what I can do. Hell, you don't even know how to keep me here. I mean, what are you, amateurs? You don't even have holy water with you. How the hell are you supposed to drive me back if I decide to attack you? So it's like, excuse me, I'll be right back. Goes and gets holy water. And then berates them. Devout Catholic, please stay at least 10 feet from me or I'll spray you. Dumb F, you think that these wings are just for show? I'll fly over and rip your throat before you can pull the trigger. Shit, man, where's the goddamn summoning circle or the protective hexagram?
It just continues on from that, just like consistent banter.
Yeah, the demon the demon actually, like, you guys don't know what you're doing here. Give me a piece of chalk, I'll show you how to do it.
Some of the strangest stuff can be found there, like this.
Demon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like there is one of a small, what looks like a clockwork man, little robot about yay big, but it calls itself the Destroyer of Worlds, and all it does is threaten the researchers consistently. But then it can get downright sinister to a small teddy bear that seems to express emotion and always wants all the hugs and cuddles. And then, for some reason, at night is seen leaving its containment cell and gathering materials. At one point, one of the researchers was found with half of his body mutilated. None of the parts could be found until they searched this bear's cell. And they noticed that he was actually building another bear out of the ripped-off body parts.
Cute and cuddly. I want one for Christmas.
Oh, yes. And it was exponential. They kept on feeding off of all the other researchers and any other tissue they could to recreate these bears until it took over an entire one of the facilities.
Well, I'll say, on a related note, one of my favorite urban legends, and not so much because I find the story that interesting, but because I find the evolution of the story so interesting, is Slender Man.
Oh, God, yes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Started out as a contest.
Yeah, that's what I find so interesting. For the 3 people listening who don't know who Slender Man is, because he is, I mean, they just had a movie about him, for Pete's sake.
Yes.
Slender Man is supposedly this tall figure in like 19th century
kind of dressed in a suit.
Pretty much in a suit, yeah.
With long arms and legs that shows up in pictures and supposedly kidnaps children.
Yes. With no facial features whatsoever.
Just a blank face. Now, what is interesting about this is, as Brian said, it started out as a contest of just like shoehorning this creepy images into old-time photographs.
Mm-hmm.
But this huge folklore is built up around it.
Oh, yeah.
And people are now convinced there is a Slender Man out there, to the point, very unfunnily, there were a group of young girls, like 12, 13.
It's like 2 of them.
Yeah, 2 of them, who decided to murder one of their friends, supposedly because Slender Man told them to.
Yeah.
That was the main one that hit the news, but it wasn't the only time it was reported. There were a couple of other instances as well.
That's right.
Nice. Good to know.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing something about some other ones, so I think Beth is right. She's usually on top of these things.
Yeah.
Yep.
We keep her around for reasons. That she knows what she's talking about is one of the main ones.
Slender Man is always something, and the thing is that there have been modifications to the folklore where if he's in the same room as you, as long as you don't look and see him, you'll be fine. Other times, if you look at a photo of him, that immediately causes him to materialize where you're at. You know, there's variances to the folklore itself. I mean, even that show Supernatural came up with an idea of it where the more that people believe in a particular legend, suddenly it manifests a creature that causes it.
So what that is...
Tulpa, I think it was called.
It's an idea from Eastern mysticism, particularly Tibetan Buddhism.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's one of the... Because
thought projection.
I've had some speculation from investigators I know that whilst we know Slender Man started out as a hoax, there now may be something behind it.
Okay.
Now, there's 2 schools of thought here. There's 3 schools of thought. One is there's nothing behind it.
Okay.
The other is either, one, that it's something else, a fairy or a demon, that's thought the idea was funny and decided to use it to screw with the humans.
Makes sense.
And there are certainly both fairies and demons that would do that.
Also makes sense.
The other is that it's what's called the tulpa. So again, in Tibetan Buddhism, and the tradition shows up by a number of other names. Brian hit on one of the thought forms or egregores. But in certain mystical traditions, you can project your thoughts into an independent and create an independent being.
Yes.
This is particularly common in Tibetan Buddhism, where the monks will practice to do this, and they usually create people. Sometimes they can create creatures. And the longer the thing is allowed to continue to exist, the more independent it becomes, and usually the more hostile it becomes.
Yes.
And Lorraine Warren, for example, actually had a theory, and I think there's a degree of truth to this, that a lot of cryptids that people see are actually tulpas. Because if you look, a lot of the most famous cryptids, Yeti, seen in the Himalayan mountains, where Tibetan Buddhism is commonly practiced. Sasquatch, common among Native American reservations, which have their own mystical traditions.
And hiding in blurry photographs.
Yeah. Loch Ness Monster. Oh, dear crap, the amount of magical ritual that has been done at Loch Ness, up to and including the fact that Aleister Crowley had a bloody castle on the loch where he did ritual.
Of course.
And it would explain why these things don't leave physical traces. There's stories of people getting into gunfights with Bigfoot, where Bigfoot threw rocks and they shot at Bigfoot.
Coming next month from Michael Bay Productions, Bigfoot and Cowboys.
Yep.
Well, that's the thing people forget as well with Bigfoot is, in the modern versions, he's kind of this quiet, peaceful, lovable forest giant. In the older stories, especially the old Native American stories of Sasquatch or Uma, he's a vicious cannibal who eats people.
Yes.
I think my favorite theory when it comes to Bigfoot is the whole, it's essentially a human version of the different types of bears. So it's related to the Yeti.
It's a werebear.
Well, that's just it. The Yeti, if you read Nepalese folklore, what the Sherpas say, is also this terrifying, preternatural creature with magical powers. It's not just this big, lovely, giant who hangs out in the mountains.
The abominable snowman. I will love him and kiss him and stroke him and call him George.
What about the affable snowman? The avuncular
the adorable snowman.
The adorable snowman.
This guy here.
But I think there may be some truth to that. I think it's also... So the Warrens also suggested, and I think in general, we've talked about this on the show before, and I think that's something we'll probably get into it in detail at some point. I think that most UFO sightings, if not all, maybe all UFO sightings that are not naturally explainable in some way, are spirits, not aliens.
Agreed.
But again, it may also be this tulpa thing. And here's the thing. Think about the power of collective belief.
Oh boy, yeah.
I mean, magic. The classic definition of magic from Aleister Crowley himself is the science and art of causing change and conformity with will. Magic is about making belief and making idea and giving these things form. To quote the Bible on the subject, if you have faith the size of a grain of mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, "Get thee hence." Belief, and even on a psychological level, our belief about what's real is in many ways more important than what's objectively real.
Yeah, just remember, kids, if you believe hard enough and you work hard enough, you can be anything you want to be.
I want to be a fire truck. Or no, I want to be an Apache attack helicopter.
Nice.
Fully loaded or peacetime workable?
Obviously fully loaded. But
do not complain.
I mean,
believe it.
Granted, I'm not going as far as to say, because there are people in there. Oh, good Lord! There's the book, The Secret, which is all about if you wish hard enough, you can make things happen.
Things will just come to you. Yeah.
That's just it. The really disturbing part of it is, by the same token, according to the Secret, people who have horrible things happen to them, up to and including it's even implied the Holocaust itself, wanted horrible things to happen to them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This is the reason why I wasn't fine.
And somebody else is calling. Hello, you're on there with the Paranormal Encyclopedia.
Baron Voltage, I want to play a game.
I knew it. I knew it.
You see, you said her name 3 times.
Brian was the one that requested me to come on, so I was like, hey, why not? I just finished work, so hello.
How you doing tonight?
A prediction.
I'm good. I was listening to how you guys were talking about folklores, and one of my favorite folklores is that of the Pied Piper, because I learned the legend of the Pied Piper when I was watching Fox's Sleepy Hollow. I don't know if you guys ever watched the show. It's where the Headless Horseman happens to be one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse.
I watched the show at first, and they just screwed up so many things I just couldn't do it anymore.
I got pissed after the second half of the season. I was just sort of like, you take such a brilliant show and turn it so bad that it just disgusted me. But in one of the episodes, they did a thing on the Pied Piper. And in the original legend, it was back in, I think, the 1200s, I believe.
I think so. I'd have to look it up.
The Pied Piper would play this tune to get rats to leave a village, but then the Pied Piper started playing a tune to where he would lure children away from a village and kill the children.
Yeah.
I've seen that. I've also seen it suggested that was going on as he's leading them away to sell them into slavery.
Yes, there have been that variations as well. I mean, the original text of the lore is that the people of Hamlin were overrun with rats.
Yep.
And they wanted to be able to figure out a way to get rid of them because they just plain couldn't. And you have this dude that basically says, I can get rid of them. All I want is this. And the townspeople basically said, we'll pay you all this, just get rid of it. And what did he do? He let the rats out. And when it came time for the payout, they stiffed them. They basically said, no, yeah, well, you want to what? Since we got rid of the rats, screw you, bye.
And that's when he led
the children.
Always pay your contractors.
And I'll say this, there is some research and some evidence that certain sonic frequencies do have effect on various types of vermin.
Is that why my ears are ringing?
Yeah.
There we go.
But no, I do like it. It is a fun story.
It is. And you know what? It's a very old piece of folklore. I think that was, Germanic folklore?
Germanic folklore.
Actually, I think from at least some of the versions I've read, I believe the oldest version of it may in fact be Transylvanian.
Not surprised. I know Lederhosen was involved. That's about it.
Yeah. Well, the reality being Germany and the various states that would become Romania were heavily involved in trade and things of that nature.
Of course.
Well, and they shifted the borders and stuff.
Oh, good Lord,
over the years, so it could have been any.
When aren't they shifting the borders?
It's the Etch-a-Sketch version of geography.
There's a few decades after World War II where borders stayed relatively stable.
And then the 90s hit.
Yep.
Everything happens in the 90s.
Yep. As Randy the Ram Johnson once said, the 90s sucked. Thanks for calling in.
I was born in the 90s, so watch your mouth.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying a damn word. I know better.
Smart.
He's slow, but he gets it eventually.
Well, thank you for calling in,
Yes,
Aaron.
thank you very much.
Very
awesome.
You're welcome.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
So, and it's one of the other things people forget. You know, if you read a lot of urban legends, they have a fairly creepy element.
Jeff the Killer.
Oh, I hate Jeff the Killer.
Oh, no, don't even get me started on that hat.
Yeah.
Not only that, do you know the origins of that photo?
Salad fingers.
Oh, that's the worst part. So
Salad fingers was okay.
the worst thing about Jeff the Killer, in my opinion, and it's what Amisha's referring to, is there's a photograph that's supposedly of Jeff. Not only is that that's not even a guy, it's a woman. What's really horrible is it's a woman who committed suicide. Before then they bleached out the face and made a couple of other changes and turned it into Jeff the Killer. Aside from the fact it's terrible writing, there's a number of reasons why I hate Jeff the Killer.
That's why it's on Creepypasta. Not every single bit of literature is good. But good or bad, it probably will end up on Creepypasta somewhere.
I was going to say, there are some very good Creepypastas.
Oh, God, yes. I mean, I have 4 go-tos whenever it comes to reading any kind of fiction. You got the SCP, of course, Creepypasta, Reddit, and Letters to the Editor. If I ever want great fiction, that's the 4 places I'll go. And some of it's the most terrifying literature you'll ever read.
So actually, since we're on this subject, I do want to give a plug to my friend Lupus Creepus, who has his own channel.
Oh, yes.
Lupus Creepus, also the wonderful, brilliantly titled series Will It Kill Me, where he tests various creepypasta rituals to see if, in fact, he will die.
And there's actually a couple of other YouTubers we could always give a shout-out to and maybe get onto the show at some point that do that specify
Creeps
this as well.
Creeps Mr. Creepypasta.
Rob Dyke, in particular.
There's a ton of them that do.
Yes.
But I would definitely recommend checking them out. Lupus is a friend of mine. He and I have collaborated a few times.
Check Lupus first. Some of his stuff is just like, okay, you're actually doing this. All right.
I'll say the most impressive of all the rituals he did, the one that I'm still the most impressed that he managed to pull off, is the devil ritual.
Yeah.
Because to do the devil ritual, you have to do it inside of a church. And he managed to find a church that let him do a ritual that was explicitly meant to summon Satan.
That's a lot of faith in the church.
Well, 2 things. One is, his first thought, which I thought was the simplest solution, is go to a satanic church.
Duh.
But that's not what he did.
They'd buy him a beer afterwards if he succeeded. And if not, they would have bought him a beer
anyway.
for at least trying. Come on.
What they ultimately found is they found a very... and watch it on YouTube. It's a lot of fun. It's up there. It's a pretty trippy church where the cross on the wall is a pair of crossed rifles.
Please tell me this is in Tennessee. Please tell me this is in Tennessee. Okay.
California's got everything.
But apparently it was originally set up
to
be a set piece for movies.
Right.
But they've actually legitimately performed church services there, so it is in fact a church.
I hereby give you this 5.56 millimeter rifle shell to be your lawfully weighted weapon. The Arnold says it so. Governor B.
Let's not go down this road just because as much as I love the governor politics, it's like
governor will burst through that door like freaking like the Kool-Aid man.
Yeah,
and be like, oh no.
I'm not disrespecting Arnold. I'm just avoiding the
He will find you.
Yeah.
He is who I am terrified of. That's what a creepypasta is. You look under the bed and you see the governor. Just when you thought you got rid of him, you'd be like, I'm back.
I said I'd be back, and I told the truth.
Yep, I'll be back.
But, and the thing I was getting at, though, is if you read, and we've said this before, but it's always worth repeating, read the original Grimm's fairy tales.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Get a good translation of it. Get a good translation of the original Arabian Nights. They're a lot more screwed up than you think.
Yeah.
And the kicker is, especially with Grimm's, it's like, Wilhelm and Jacob Grimm were folklorists. They weren't just telling kids stories. They were collecting folklore. But even they sanitized their stories to a degree.
Yeah, as they went along, different editions, they changed things and made corrections. And
although the other side of which is, the thing about the nature of folklore is
it's allegory.
Fluid. Yeah. It's also it's not just, it is allegory. It's often allegory, but it's also very fluid.
Like Aesop's fables.
Two different, you go to France where Beauty and the Beast came from originally. You can get, depending on what part of France you're in, you may get 2 very different versions of the story.
Oh, yeah.
For that matter, there's the European versions of Cinderella versus there's a Chinese story that's very similar.
Yeah.
But there's notable differences. There isn't a single version.
Russian?
I believe so as well, yes. But there isn't a single version of these stories. And the thing you have to remember is some of these go back hundreds of years, maybe even thousands. And you're dealing with people that were not the most educated in the world. They didn't have written languages. It's passed down mouth to mouth. So, yeah, it's the telephone game over hundreds of years. Of course there's different versions.
Now, I will state this, and this is kind of going out to a lot of folks that I met this past weekend, because a lot of them came to me and asked where I got a lot of my ideas from. And I'll tell you, if anybody ever wants inspiration for some of the most evil, twisted, and sadistic bits of literature, read that. Grimm's fairy tales alone will keep you awake.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there There was a rumor I heard a number of years back that Hitchcock actually kept a copy under his bed.
Could be.
I haven't heard it, but it wouldn't surprise me.
You know, and there's just so much material in there to draw from. It's.
And I mean, the devil shows up in a whole bunch of them.
Oh yes, of course. He's like a consistent. He's like the one overarching character that just goes through all of them. You might as well be the narrator. It's like Tales from the Hood. The Red Riding Hood.
Death shows up in a couple, including one of my favorites, which is Godfather Death. And there's so many other. I mean, there's so many folklore tales all over the world and different variations. And I mean, I forget it. I need to dig up the book that it's in, but there's a Polish fairy tale about a werewolf and a saint.
There's one I think you might like. It's post-Civil War, though. The Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge.
Oh,
I've read it.
Ambrose Bierce.
Yes.
That bit of folklore was good. It was a small short story.
Actually, I didn't read the short story. What I did, because they followed it pretty much verbatim, was watch the Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah.
I've never known it was a Twilight Zone episode.
The original Twilight Zone series did a completely faithful adaptation.
Yep.
The original.
I'll put it like this. My high school English teacher was like, okay, this is a really amazing story, but instead of having you read it, I'm going to just show you the Twilight Zone episode, because this is exactly the story. They didn't add to it. This is the original story.
That's awesome.
Twilight Zone used to adapt a lot of really, really good fiction.
Actually, you want to know what? That was the folklore of our parents.
Yeah.
Rod Serling.
And even my childhood.
Oh, yeah.
I grew up on
a little bit of
Twilight
mine,
Zone.
too, yeah.
Well, that's the interesting thing is a lot of things that people think of as, like, particularly American folklore is originally fiction. Like, two of the most iconic figures in American folklore, Paul Bunyan and Pecos Bill.
Henry.
No, John Henry was an actual historical figure.
John Henry, they beat a mechanical...
Yep. Yes, he's actually based on a real man.
Based on a real guy.
But originally Paul Bunyan was basically a marketing mascot. And Pecos Bill was a correct collection of short stories.
What about Johnny Appleseed?
Also based on a real guy.
Wow, I'm just kicking on the
really interesting guy, actually. John Chapman, who's the basis of Johnny Appleseed, was partly doing a fairly clever land grab.
Yeah.
It worked.
He was planting apple seeds in order to claim the land.
Yeah. He was also a wandering minister. You'll see I've seen a lot of books and stories of him that will say he was a Mormon. He was around about 100 years before the Mormons.
Okay.
What he was is what's known as a shaker.
Ah, yes.
Shakers are definitely something to get into when we get into the spiritualist movement. But briefly,
and a shaker.
There it is.
The Shakers were. It started in the 18th century, but it was a movement. They were known as the Shakers, or sometimes the Shaking Quakers. That the leader claimed to communicate with the dead, communicate with angels. One of the things that was interesting about them, and the reason there's like 3 people that are still considered that can still call themselves Shakers left on the planet, just about, is all members, male or female, clergy or otherwise, took vows of chastity. Even if you went in married, nope, no more sex, no children. So instead of the main way they propagated the religion was adoption. But it wasn't like members of the religion would adopt children. The religion would adopt children, just like you had Catholic orphanages and things back in the day. But when the laws in the United States changed and religious organizations could no longer adopt children, that put an end to their ability to recruit new members, which basically is the religion slowly dying out. The thing that they're now still probably the most famous for is the fact they did a lot of very beautiful furniture.
Yeah, shaker-style furniture.
Yeah. There's still, the last 3, I believe, are still active up in New York, upstate New York.
Yeah, I think that's where they were at.
Yeah, but he was one of these folks who traveled, taking land by planting apple seeds and preaching his gospel.
Yeah. Next, they're going to tell me, well, no, wait, I already know about that. Dang it. Never mind.
What? Who?
Popeye. Based off a real guy.
I'm not surprised. Although he was more of a cartoon than folklore.
Yeah.
Cartoons were the children's fables. We learned the lessons. If you think about it.
And a number of them are based on, Wile is definitely at least inspired by
Sisyphus.
the coyote.
Sisyphus. Think about it. The unconquerable challenge. Mm-hmm. Consistently chasing after that which he will never catch.
I was going to say he's based on the coyote of Native American folklore.
Possibly.
The trickster figure. Especially, I can see the Sisyphus, but I think it's more the motif because Coyote is one of my favorite figures in all of folklore. I love tricksters in general, but Coyote in particular. And he fills every role in folklore that someone can fill. There are Native American stories where he created the universe. There are stories where he's Satan. But the one
because different tribes look at it in different ways, and in different stories he fulfills.
The one recurring aspect of his character throughout the various forms is he's a trickster. A lot of the times, he's a trickster less in the sense of he's just a dick. Loki tends to be kind of a dick.
Yes.
But he'll either do tricks either to take the wind out of somebody who's proud or to help others, or sometimes he'll do tricks to teach somebody a lesson. Although another common factor in a lot of Loki stories, particularly Navajo Loki stories, or Coyote stories, it's also true of Loki for that matter, is he tends to trip himself up with his own tricks.
That was what I was about to say.
Well, a lot of times he's supposed to be like this story they tell of him is here's what not to be like. Don't be like Coyote. Yeah. And he's a moral sort of
he's a reverse exemplar. What would Superman do? As a moral, how to be a moral person? Think of what would Superman do in this situation? Yeah. Instead, what would Coyote not do in this situation? That's how to be moral.
Coyote's usually he's hungry, he's greedy, he's lustful.
He's a little stupid.
To quote Wile E. Coyote, he is a super genius.
Well, I have to say, one of my favorite Coyote stories is still the way that he gets a wife.
Oh yeah. Well, he's a lot like Anansi, from African and Caribbean folklore.
It's one of the other ones. I find interesting because a very readily familiar trickster figure to a lot of Americans, although people often think he was invented by Disney, he wasn't, would be Briar Rabbit.
Oh yeah.
And Briar Rabbit comes from slave legend, and recently freed, obviously, slaves in the 18th and 19th century in the South. Mm-hmm. But one of the arguments some folklorists have used is that Briar Rabbit was actually drawn from Coyote. Mm-hmm. Which, the more logical argument I've seen is, no, he was drawn from Anansi.
Yeah.
And the reality is there's a similarity in stories between the two that it's not hard to figure out why somebody might look at these and go, hey, this is kind of like Anansi. Hey, this is kind of like Coyote.
Oh, yeah. Somebody just decided instead of a spider, let's have a cute rabbit or whatever.
Okay, I like that change. That's a good change. Good change.
Or instead of a coyote, right, he's a rabbit.
Yes.
And the thing is, all over the world, there's this motif of the trickster. Loki, Coyote, Robin Goodfellow.
Mm-hmm. Robin Hood.
Robin as a more human trickster instead of the supernatural ones.
Don't talk about supernatural and Loki and tricksters.
Another fun trickster, although again, much like Coyote, depending on which Asian country you're talking about, they run the bloody gambit. Fox spirits.
Oh yeah.
No.
Which can be good, they can be evil. Usually, they're just kind of trickster dicks. Although they're all in most religions, they're all women, so they're not quite dicks, I suppose.
Not going there. Not going down that route. No.
And of course, there's probably a million Japanese fanboys out there that are listening to this going, yes, Kitsune. Weeaboos, I think they call them. Nope. We are coming up near the end of the show. Mm-hmm. But so there are a couple of things to talk about, I think, at this point, aside from our last sponsor. One is we're up on subscribers. We've gotten like 5 or 6 in the last week, I want to say.
Oh, cool.
So I want to welcome all of our new subscribers and thank you for being part of this crazy whirligig of a show.
Yep.
For anyone who's listening for the first time, we're live every week, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time both on Hamilton Radio, iHeartRadio, and you can find us on Facebook by looking up Paranormal Encyclopedia.
And on YouTube.
But you can't hear us live on YouTube, unfortunately. Nope. You can if you look us up on Facebook, you can hear us live. We always welcome questions. The numbers at the bottom of the screen. Hey, Ed from who was one of our guests last week just showed up in chat at the very end. Oh. But I want to say hello. And thanks for joining us. So you check us out, like, comment, subscribe. We missed the original deadline to go to 2 hours, but the station, being the awesome people they are, is working with us to a point. So if you can, consider, if you want to help us out, and you can, like, comment, subscribe, are the most basic free things everybody can do. Share it with your friends. If you can join one of our 2 sponsors. We'll get to the second one in a second, or Audible. You can also consider contributing to the show either through our Patreon, patreon.com/demonology, patreon.com/demonology, or GoFundMe, gofundme.com/paranormal-encyclopedia, gofundme.com paranormal-encyclopedia. We do still have an opportunity to get moved from 1 to 2 hours if you want to help us out there. But that's going to do it for tonight. Baron, if you want to read our other sponsor.
In my very dulcet tones.
Oh, yes. Indeed.
Indeed. Well, everyone is concerned about internet security these days, from governments to major corporations. Even the average internet user should be concerned about who is seeing your online information and how that information can be used. Well, NordVPN is the answer you've been looking for. A VPN is a virtual private network that protects your IP address so that your online activity is protected by military-grade encryption. The way it works is you connect to Nord's protected network, and then they connect to the internet. It's a layer of protection between you and all the viruses, malware, and snoopers out there. Nord works on all devices too, not just computers. Your phone, tablet, whatever, up to 6 devices at a time, regardless of what operating system they use. Nord works with them all. Access all the internet content you want, streaming media all you want, websites, even social platforms. Nothing's restricted on Nord. So it's a great way to get around those pesky firewalls at work. Or maybe if you live in a country that's not so internet friendly. They have easy plans starting at a month for $11.95 down to 3-year plans for as low as $2.75 a month. Check it out risk-free at nordvpn.com, and you'll be glad you did.
Use the link in the description to help out the show.
Indeed.
Yes. We need to change that in there.
Yeah, the problem is the link they gave us isn't personalized the way the Audible link is, so it's a mouthful to read out on the air.
Okay, fair enough.
Shouldn't be a problem.
And it's like, 08GY dot something dash something.
Yeah, we'll just change it to follow the link in our...
Yeah, just follow the link. But, yep, that's good. And remember as well, look up on Facebook, Revenge of the Con, probably going to be changed to Wrath of the Con.
Wrath of the Cons, yes.
In a few days, because I want to give people a chance. So look up Revenge of the Con. If you don't see Revenge, look up Wrath.
Yes.
Join it if you're interested in doing a convention. It'll be in New Jersey, probably sometime spring, summer of next year. We're still at the moment. The main thing, we're not asking for money for that because we actually have an investor who's helping out. But to get the investor to do anything, we need numbers, and to get numbers, we need a rough idea of how many people are going to show up.
Indeed.
Yes. So please, if you're interested, join the group. If you're not interested, I love people who join things to support. But right now, mostly, if you're interested, join us. If you think you know people who are interested, invite them to join us, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's going to do it for tonight. This is Kevin Mears.
Brian McKinley.
And Baron Voltage.
Say good night and God bless.
Keep your fangs sharp.
And avoid all lightning rods, please.
Good night, everybody.
And good night.